Good evening. I'm Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. Thank you for joining us. And those of you who are joining us for the first time, a very special thank you. Without you, there is no show. So thanks again. There's been a lot of talk in the news today about Obamacare and the government being shut down and so on. And I never like to get into politics, but it brings me present to a very important point, and that is the importance of working together, the importance of coming together. Even if you have opposing views, it is very important to come together. I look at the gears in a gearbox of a vehicle. I mean, sometimes they're turning opposite each other, but yet they work together to make that vehicle move. And I'm using this as an analogy to make a point. First of all, I want to thank my friends. I call them friends of CWS, who have risen to the occasion. I have not been able to do some taggings recently, and it gave me a very good opportunity to reach out and ask some of my friends to take up the slack. My friends, and I know some of them may not want me to call their name, but Andrea, thank you, dear. Krista, thank you. Pauline, thank you so much. Ray Macmillan, my brother, thank you very much. Thank you for always being there and encouraging me. One of the things I want to take this opportunity to say is that as much as I come here every week, and I'm glad to bring someone on to tell their stories, I am also very thankful and grateful for those who are behind the scenes urging me on and encouraging me. I think it is very important. I think it's important that we encourage each other whenever we have an idea. This didn't start here. What you're seeing here today is an evolution, and it is a result of persistence. You are perhaps viewing this broadcast on the new website. I launched it on Sunday. I was holding it back because there are other features I would like to include, but to me it was a waste of time and energy maintaining two sites. So again, what you're seeing here is an evolution. We started one place, and here we are, and we are continuing to grow, and thank you for your cooperation. Thank you for all your efforts, and thank you for all your assistance. Tonight is a very special night. Is a gentleman that is back by public demand. The last time Valence was here, Valence Williams, most of you know him as, was here, folks have texted me, inboxed me, called me, say, you got to bring Valence back. I mentioned it to Valence, and Valence said, but wonderful, no problem, because the story has only just begun. And so I am happy to have him here tonight. I'll take a break, and I'll introduce you to Valence on the return. We are back, and the gentleman next to me is Valence Williams, back by public demand. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, I'm your host, Selwyn Collins of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. Valence, good evening, sir.
Hi, how are you, Selwyn? And hello to everyone out there. I'm happy to be back. You worked me the last time.
Um, Senior VP of Aegis Capital, 28 years of trading commodity futures, stocks, bonds, currencies, and derivatives. Writer, radio personality, and TV. We're going to go right into it, Valence.
Right.
Napoleon Bonaparte said a leader is a dealer in hope. And John Quincy Adams says, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. Since you are like that, would you consider yourself a good leader?
Well, Because I always paid attention to the shepherd, eh? The shepherd never seemed to lead from the front. He was always in the middle of the flock. So I think a good leader has to be in the center of the action. He's got to be in the middle of the flock. Because leading from the front, you miss the beat. That's the way I feel about that.
So many asked and demanded you return to CWS, and I listened. Let us start with Guyana. Tell us about the strong Guyanese women in your life, and who among them impressed you the most?
Well, that's very interesting because my grandmother, my mother's mother, had the reputation of having been one of the originators of the Unity Church in Guyana. She left Catholicism for unity. So whenever I speak with people that might have been a generation younger, that their parents knew her, they speak of her with quite a bit of reverence. So she was one of the women that I was raised by, and has left an indelible impression on me, because she seemed to have known a little bit about just about everything. I'd never forget when we were learning to speak properly. There was a spelling bee every other night, and the word that was challenging for us, and we got it eventually, was chrysanthemum. And a very interesting thing happened about maybe 35 years later. When Emperor Hirohito passed the throne on to his son, it was called the chrysanthemum throne. And for some reason, when I heard that word used in that way, other than just the flower, I thought that she probably knew why she was having us trying to learn to spell this word, chrysanthemum, and pronounce it properly.
Chrysanthemum.
Yeah, the chrysanthemum throne.
On your last appearance on CWS,
Yes.
you spoke extensively on the mambo.
The
For those
mambo.
who are seeing you on this show for the first time, can you tell us why should we pay attention to the mambo?
To the mambo?
Yeah.
Because the mambo is a very euphemistic term, you know. It's usually associated with music and dance that originated out of Cuba. But the actual mambo, which is a way of communicating, came out of the King Congo tribe in Africa. They were the slaves that went to Cuba, you see. So when I use the word mambo, and they used it when they were communicating with the gods. So our audience are the gods. So whenever the word mambo is used, let's mambo. It's speaking to the gods, speaking to your friends.
Speaking to the gods. Just a footnote. Those of you who have tuned in from parts of the Caribbean, Guyana, Africa, anywhere where your connection might be a little slow, roll your mouse over the video. You will see three numbers: 480, 400, and 360. They are different resolutions. Choose the one that best suits you, so you can consume the show as everyone else. So Valence, back to you. Tell us about the corner. Its many benefits, including storytelling, and how it contributed to the astuteness and growth of young men of your time.
Oh, the corner, man, that was the most exciting part of life. Growing up on the corner in Guyana, we learned to sing, we learned to extemporize. It was storytelling. You could go see a movie and come back and tell the whole thing. Remember who the director was and everything. Just about it. Your memory had to be good, because on the corner it was really a stage. There were no walls on the corner, so you couldn't corner a corner boy on the corner. You see, so it was exciting, man, really. And blended with that, everybody was politically astute. There were historians on the corner. There were men that could remember statistics of cricket games that they'd never even seen. They read about it. It was the most amazing thing. And these were back in the days when most of the cricket was on the radio. You know what I mean?
So you think this is why you have such a great memory?
I think so. I definitely think so because you really had to memorize a lot of things. Now everything is right here on your phone. You don't have to memorize anything. You lose your phone now, you can't remember your brother's phone number. So, but that stage of non-technological period was also had its benefits because you had to memorize so that you could pass on.
Right.
Because, for instance, here is this wonderful internet with all this information. But the stories I was told sitting on the back stairs from my grandmother that never ceased to leave my memory. You see? And that is how the family stories were passed on. Because nobody wrote it down.
From my experience with you, I noticed that nothing ever remains the same, which means boredom cannot ever be attributed to you. So I ask this again, beyond the brilliance, the social and political astuteness, the popularity, the charisma, the eloquence in conversation, poise and personal presentation, who is Valence Williams?
Well, that's a very, very interesting question. Because what you see is what you get. For me to come up with an explanation, that's not really a challenge. Because it is what it is. Let it be, you know.
Let it be.
Yeah.
The last time you quoted some political leaders, including Lula da Silva and Mao. In your opinion, what makes a transformative leader?
A transformative leader is someone who could look at the state of a country, the condition of their people, and try to elevate it. You know, poverty is a hell of a thing. It's one of the biggest challenges, global challenges, to eradicate poverty, to at least to reduce it to a significant level. Because to go hungry for a couple of days, it's a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
So any leader who is genuinely concerned about lifting that level and standard of the people is someone that I really pay attention to, rather than the ones that are profoundly and deliberately geared towards filling their pockets with money. You can't eat cash. You know.
In the theater of Pan-Africanism, what would you say about Julius Nyerere and?
Nyerere and these guys, they came through at a hell of a time, because when they came through, you remember now that the whole of Africa was split up by the Europeans.
Right.
And everybody adopted the European way of life, and the African culture was looked down upon and all that stuff. But within that, there was a certain amount of raping of the resources of the country, you know. So it definitely created an endemic corruption, you know. And within the corruption, the Africans started killing each other, you know, for whoever was closest to the man, you know. And it's an amazing thing that in spite that Africa has been plundered, they have not scratched the surface of the natural resources. For instance, in the Congo, there's still more gold and diamonds and things like coltan. No technology could work without coltan, and the biggest reserves of coltan is in the heart of the Congo, you know. But you will see that right now on Wall Street, they're talking about Africa being the next China. I think, as a matter of fact, on the Economist magazine, they'd even had that written. But what you see is when you divide up people, you'll notice that neighboring countries in Africa has gone through a lot of problems. Right? You know, a lot of people have been killed. I mean, Rwanda was definitely an indication of that. But amazingly enough, Rwanda has gone through a change, and they're moving forward. And it brings me to the book I've been reading recently about breakout nations and things, you know. Because here was China that was cut off from everybody for a long time.
Right.
And it was Deng Xiaoping that decided we got to make a change, forget this Mao Zedong. And look where China has started moving, because they got command capitalism. They don't have to go through what Barack Obama is going through right now. Here's a leader that is trying to make sure that the people that are underserved at the bottom end of the rung could get decent health care. And they won't let them. Fidel Castro, in spite of whatever you say, or whether you like him or not, there's free education and free health care. The two of the most important things, you know what I mean? So it's very disturbing to see what they're putting this man through.
Yeah.
Because for those people, I know a lot of people that haven't had health insurance. So doctors now, nobody wants to touch you if you don't have insurance. So it's very frustrating, you know. So being the first black president it's a wonderful thing, but it's quite a challenge.
Quite a challenge.
Quite a challenge, you know. I wish him well, because whoever is coming behind, he's already set the way for you. He set.
I agree.
The path,
I agree.
you know.
Let's go back a little bit in your timeline before we move forward. And you're well read, so I'm going to ask you this question. What did you enjoy reading as a youngster when you were growing up in Guyana?
Oh man, let me start with the reality. Comic books were the bomb, man. Come on, man. Comic books. We had every kind of comic book. That was like watching the sitcoms now and things of that nature. And then of course we read Western books. There was a guy named Louis L'Amour.
Yes.
We read a lot of that stuff. So that my reading, if one could call that intellectual, the comic books was the beginning of the intellectualization. That's a reality, you know.
As a child, who is one of the most impressive grown-ups to you, and why?
Definitely my father, Joe Williams. Joe Williams is a master at understanding human behavior. He was not, by any means, a man that focused on what was the written word. He created the word in that he had a compassionate soul. He made sure that the people around him were fed. If they didn't pay the women that were working in certain jobs and stuff, he would send them. He was in the meat business. If your mother had no money, Joe Williams would send them free beef.
Free beef.
Free beef. Yeah. Say, take this and get it to the folks. And he made sure that twice every year he would feed everybody in the neighborhood. that to me was very, very impressive. He also had a certain skill of the way he did business. His business was done on relationships. You know, he had a certain personality that was absolutely amazing. In fact, one of the most profound and brilliant lawyers in Guyana, I remember when I first got on Wall Street, someone told me I should give him a call, that he trades. And after giving this man a call, I said, "You have an interesting voice. Who's your father?" And I said, "Joe Williams." He said, "Boy, when we were kids, your father would pull up a van, come out and show us how to play ball, and then after the game, he'd give all of us some money." And he did that with regularity. So he was, to me, you know, a character, a personality, a real man. You know what I mean? And he had a spirit and enjoyed life, you know, that kind of thing.
Who would you say really understood you as a child?
Who really understood me as a child? I would definitely say my mother.
Why is that?
Well, because she was the nurturer. She was the one that made sure that you understood why it was important to learn to play the piano, why it was important for you to understand classical music, why it was important for you to be able to recite poetry, why it was important for you to bring first. You understand me? So she geared you towards that end of things. Whilst my father would wake you up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go work with him. So I got it from both sides, man. From both sides. You know?
Can you give us a glimpse of what you were like in your late teens?
In my late teens, boy.
Mid to late.
Mid to late teens. Whoa. I wish some of my female friends were here. Oh man.
Tell it, Valence.
Tell it like it is. Well, I mean, I was always the life of the party. Because I think I had natural comedic tendencies. Those days, that's before migration to United States. We had a wonderful life in Guyana, you know, and a wonderful standard of living.
Yes.
It was quite classy. I remember back in the day when they would have certain parties, you'd have to ask the girls' mothers 3 months before if you can take them.
3 months?
Yeah, 3 months before. You couldn't just go to QC Ball or something like that and not ask the parents. It was not allowed back then. I mean, it's a little disturbing now, but change is inevitable.
Right.
But ours was done in a certain way, and my father would make sure that I have a driver and a car. The driver would wait for us till the party's over, and I got to take the girl home. That was the modus operandi at the time. And we had lots of wonderful little get-togethers and parties, and the girls were very, very sophisticated then, very sophisticated. So, you know, you had to be respectful and mannerly and stuff
yes,
like
of
that.
course.
So that was a wonderful period. That's 60s. Yeah.
Yes. Why is gaffing so important to you? And at what age did you realize you had a knack for it?
Well, you know, it's interesting that when I noticed the other day when you put that the ad up, one of my female friends from Jamaica said, "What is a gaff man?" And, and my nephew responded, because I would never respond to that. And my nephew responded and said, a griot, a storyteller, someone with humor, sense of humor and stuff like that. But I think this is something that is genetic also. My father was on that, you know. And what was really gaffing is men sitting around, women sitting around and entertaining each other. Because that was prior to the days of TV. So gaffing became what would be considered a form of entertainment. Because everybody in the group had a story to tell that was a blend of humor, reality, history, a blend of everything. So I kind of put it in my database. I collected a lot of stories over the years. So I've got, I could talk for 2, 3 days on stories that I've heard.
Can we get one? I mean, children tune into the show, but
I think that one of the stories is there was theater.
uh
Street theater was a man called Law and Order. Law and Order he had like a cart. And he built this cart in such a way because he was very knowledgeable about everything that was going on in politics. And he was very fair. He hung every leader at least 3-4 times, man. Law and Order was no joke. So he is one of the people I remembered very well. And we had like a running dialogue with the street people, you know what I mean? Men that were on the street like Big Two Barlow, lots of people, the street people. But what I'm just trying to say is that the people on the street, you would be communicating with them, which would be like the street bumps.
yes,
Here.
yeah,
But you had a running dialogue with them, and they would run you down the street and things like that nature. So it was really a pleasure to see stuff like that, and I can remember all those people, man. I can remember all of them. It's like quite interesting.
So Guyana was rich in these kind of characters.
Yeah. It was very, 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 very rich. Even before the Theater Guild was built, and it was rebuilt and stuff, Guyana had so much natural talent, that was amazing. So when they built the Theater Guild, it was just a place for people to let out the art forms.
Right.
Yeah. So the gaffing is just something of sitting around and passing each other different stories.
So is this why you have such a respect and reverence for, storytellers, people who are in the arts and so on, like Doris Harper?
Oh yeah, most definitely, because you see, within the old, in just about every culture, there's the people that passed on the stories that were not written down. Were the griots, were the storytellers, and usually these stories were stories of history. Were a lot of things were actual things that happened. But there was no, it goes back way before there was even the written word. There was no paper.
Tradition, right?
Yeah, it's a traditional thing.
What does it mean to you, Valence, to be Guyanese?
To be Guyanese? Oh, man. To be Guyanese, it means that I could eat pepper pot, cook up rice, curry, lau mein, and basically saying that it's a blend of cultures within a very small population. So it's an advantage because it's not until years in perhaps the late 70s, early 80s, that this term globalization started to be thrown around. And what globalization really meant is about being able to do business and move around into different parts of the world. But when you think about a country that we just got 750,000 people, and you got 6 different races, that's globalization right there.
I agree.
Right in there. So when the term came about, I had no problem. I was already globalized.
Let me just go to the chat room for a second. Desiree Edgel said, getting you loud and clear. Good evening. Good evening, Desiree. Gina D on board. Roland C checking in. Patrick, good evening to you and your guests. Great conversation. Thank you. My next question, Valence, is how do you get the best out of a person, and what do you do to inspire and motivate those you mentor?
Well, with respect to motivation, to getting the best out of people, you have to. I particularly would like to get close to the ones that people say are not willing to learn. There's this thing that this is the bad boy or the bad girl not willing to learn. Those are the ones I like.
Really? Why is that? Why is
because
that?
I convince myself that every human being is willing to learn something. And is finding out what is that person's interest. So that's how I approach that. And one guy told me he wants to be the best pickpocket. I said, who told you about me? And I told him in Guyana, in Federation Yard, they would hang a pants on a clothesline, put the wallet in the back pocket, and you got to pull it out with 2 fingers without the line shaking. He said, I never heard that. That broke the ice. He graduated out of law school from Michigan.
Wow. So you got to find what.
Yeah, you gotta go in because if you come to coerce what you want to teach me what I'm not interested in. So he came with something way out the square box, but I was ready for that.
What can you tell us about you that most of us do not know and would surprise us?
Would surprise you? I think that I don't know that it would necessarily surprise you, but I have a very deep concern for helping to share information and my experiences with the generations coming behind me. I've done a lot of work with getting kids into certain schools and stuff like that, and it's something that I guess might surprise people.
Right.
But the ones that know me closely know that I've been doing it for years. So I had people graduate. There was a time when none of the inner city kids understood what was going on at Philip Exeter that Mark Zuckerberg went to, and Choate, and Salisbury School for Boys, and the boarding schools, right? So I looked at this thing and I thought that I'd start recruiting, and I became a recruiter for some of these schools. Got them to go without paying tuition.
Wow.
Oh, yes. So I've had some great successes with that. So that might surprise people. So that was one of the things I truly enjoyed.
Do you believe investment banking fully utilizes your very diverse and vast skills?
No, well, investment banking is just one aspect of things. And basically, what is investment banking? Somebody wants to raise money. They come to you because they know that you understand what Wall Street is all about, and you introduce them to the people that do the nuts and bolts. You see what I'm saying? So every company, when you hear that Coca-Cola buys another company, the first people that both sides got investment bankers, right? And the investment bankers and the lawyers are the ones that sit down and look at the numbers and look at the deal and tell them whether the price is right. And for instance, like when Facebook goes public and they're doing an IPO, setting the price and putting together the deal. That's really what investment banking is about. And folks, pay attention. Twitter is getting ready to go public. Twitter, right. And it's going to be big because when Facebook came public, they came out at $38. The old heads around Wall Street and out and in the media really did not understand what Facebook was all about. You see? So it came out to 38, went to 45, and they talked about it like a dog. The stock went down to $18. Facebook is now $51, right? And that is because they were able to demonstrate that every person is going to have one of these mobile phones. So with the mobility, the advertising spread like wildfire. So the profits, the last quarter, the profits were huge. Boom, and then they've even gone past. They're at the highest level they've ever been, So that's part of what investment banking is. So you have to keep an eye out. For instance, there's this guy Elon Musk that is coming with the electric car, Tesla, and he just this year, Tesla was $55. It's now almost $200.
200?
Almost 200. 198 was the high. You see. Then you might have heard me and some friends that listen carefully when I talk to them. On your last show, we spoke about 3D printing.
Yes.
Karen Gray just sent me an article that they're going to take 3D printing into space. You see? This is how America's bringing back the manufacturing here. It's the innovation, and you got to think illogical to innovate. See, China, they copy. But what we're going through is a serious space of innovative thinking. And it is what is bringing America back rapidly. Elon Musk was the guy that started PayPal. You see? And he's also got a thing called SpaceX. And he wants to do the Hyperloop, where it's the Hyperloop is a speed train that could take you from New York to San Francisco in 20 minutes. It's like a tube.
Wow.
Yes. So these are things that I think I would do. I really need to get to the younger ones and explain to them that we're going through a real paradigm shift right now. You know what I mean? Apple Computer just replaced Coca-Cola as the #1 brand in the world. In the top 10 brands in the world, there's 6 technology companies. You know, IBM is one of them, Microsoft, and stuff like that. So these are some things that on a daily basis I have to do. I have to really constantly be looking to see, well, what is going to be the next game changer. You know, for instance, now you're going up in the air. Everybody wants to pull their phone out or their iPad up in the air. So there's a company called GoGo that is got about 80% of the market covered for connectivity. You see? And this is basically an age of new innovation that's coming about. You know, connectivity.
So innovation is where it is.
Yeah, it's the innovation. Innovation.
If this is not your dream job, what else would you like to have done as a career?
I don't know. My basic career is talking and humor. You know. So I think if I was not doing what I do on Wall Street, then I'd probably be doing what you're doing.
What I'm doing?
Yes. Interviewing people.
I like this. I really do enjoy it. Let me shift to the chat room. Desiree Edgel said, "Oh my, can't stay. We just got power outage." That's Guyana.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So we need solar and energy. We need wind energy.
Yes, I have a young friend who is actually thinking about or planning to start a solar company in Guyana. Raphael something.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah,
very important because you know if you look around Brooklyn, you would see very few houses with solar panels. Mm-hmm. So it's a very wide market, and anything that reduces your energy costs by 50% possibly is definitely worth looking into.
I agree.
Of course, like everything else, the Chinese got into it and came with shoddy products and tried to undersell the market, and they had to put some tariffs on them, and then now the Chinese government has taken some action and start to subsidize their solar industry because they started falling apart.
Oh. See. Let me ask you this question, then we take a quick break. Globalization blended with technology and the removal of dictatorial and corrupt individuals could raise the standard of living of those below the poverty line. That's your quote. And what does this mean to you?
What it means to me is that as we go out in time, as you will see, even the farmer in the most remote part of India, China, or Africa wants a cell phone. And the cell phone helps them to quickly get information on pricing wherever the market is. So it helps their business. It cuts out the middleman, right? So it generates more economic activity, with the technology. Because with a cell phone, before, if a woman is way out in the country and they're fishing, they're catching fish, they're fisherwomen. And there's a man that comes in now, he's the middleman. He's going down into the market. He would give them the lowest possible price he could, right? But when they got a cell phone now, they could call down to the market and know what it's retailing for. So now they could do a little better business for themselves. So that's part of it.
Well, let's take a break on that.
Okay.
arrowhead. I love my golden arrowhead. I don't think you heard me. I said arrowhead.
We are back with Valence Williams.
Oh, yes. Yes.
What can you tell us about your sense of style?
My sense of style? Well, my sense of style, I think, was developed at a very, very early age. It has no name. It's just whatever it is that seemingly suits my fancy. Anything that I like lots of colors and things of that nature, right? And growing up at the time when everybody knew what actual material was, because everybody had their own tailors, so we understood fashion from a level of tailoring, couture, pretty much. They say couture. You see what I'm saying? And as I look at the new president of Iran, as opposed to the other one, Mr. Troublemaker, I kind of found it. I thought he was quite funny though.
Yeah, he was.
He wore a jacket and just shirt. He almost semi-western. Now Rouhani looks more clerical, like more of a cleric, more religious. But they're coming with a different approach, because you see, one of the things about Iran, when you go back into the history of this whole story, there was a man named Mohammad Mossadegh. Mohammad Mossadegh was a democratically elected leader, right? Of the first democratically elected leader. He was a man of great culture and understand the classics and all these things, right? But then there was the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, which the British controlled. Iran had a bounty of the best oil and in bounty, and they were taking the oil and giving the Iranians just small change, pittance, right? At that time, Churchill was involved. So it was Mohammad Mossadegh that decided to nationalize the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, which coincidentally became BP that spilled the oil out in New Orleans. Yes. So Churchill called Eisenhower, and they got together and said, look, we cannot let this guy get away with this. So, the rumor is, the story is told differently depending on who's writing it. It was the CIA and what's the British, the M15 got together and overthrew him, and then put the Shah of Iran in, and that gave rise to the Ayatollah Khomeini, and that's the way all the anger came from. It goes back to Mohammad Mossadegh, who, when you speak to the old Iranians, hold in very, very high regard. You know what I mean?
In the chat room, Sheldon Britton said, an interesting program, particularly in relation to the discussion on investment banking. You got to do a show purely on investment banking.
Well, I could do a little more on it, right?
Well, let's do this.
Okay.
You're leaving at 9:30,
right.
so we have to close off at 9:30 tonight.
Right.
So we got to get as much in as possible in the next
Right,
15
okay.
minutes. All right. So when did you realize you wanted to become an investment banker, and what makes you stick around even with the state of the economy?
I mean, investment banking is not. It's just one of the things that I know to do.
Okay.
But my real expertise is trading.
Trading. Let's talk about it.
Well, I started trading back in the early 80s when gold went to $850 for the first time, right? Gold was pegged at $30 an ounce at one point. That's back in the Nixon period in 1972 when they came off the gold standard. But then in late 70s, there was hyperinflation. They even had to bring in a man named Mr. Khan. I can't remember his name fully, but he was the inflation fighter. And the price of gold kept rising. I'd never seen any bull market like that in my life. Gold went to $850, and I was trading commodity futures and options. And as I look at Guyana, remembering when Sir Walter Raleigh got to Guyana, he said the streets were paved with gold. And this recent boom in gold, it went to $1,800. A lot of money was made by the Canadian companies, by some Guyanese. But one of the things I learned that any commodity that goes through to a period where it rises very quickly, the downside comes twice as fast as the time it takes to go up. So when it got to 1,800 and it dropped down to 1,200, in Guyana, they called a meeting when it got to 1,200. The meeting should have been called at 1,800 because there's a way to hedge against the drop. There's a strategy that you use to hedge against that drop in the price of gold. But it happens with the price of oil. I've seen it happen to many of the oil countries that when they went through the boom in oil prices and the price came down, it disrupted the whole economy because everyone thinks that when a commodity gets hot, it's going to keep going forever. And it never does. You know, Brazil became the B in the BRICS and the BRIC economy because they've got a lot of natural resources. They were exporting to China like crazy. The Chinese were buying everything out of Brazil. But what it created in Brazil was hyperinflation. I mean, a hotel room in Sao Paulo or Rio de Janeiro or Ipanema is 3 times the price in Manhattan. That's the price inflation that it
Let me quickly go to the chat room. Patrick said Alfred Kahn was the inflation czar under Jimmy Carter.
Right,
and
under Jimmy Carter.
And then Karen G said investment banking and trading, as Val will tell you, moves on news. So one has to read and be alert to what matters in the world. Val, what's your take? Let me reread what she said. Investment banking and trading, as Val will tell you, moves on news. So one has to read and be alert to what matters in the world. What's your take?
Well, I think she's hit it right on the nose because it's all about being on top of what is the next event that is about to happen that will affect price either up or down. So you don't want to be going up and the price is going down and vice versa. So an investment banking, it's supposed to be legal if you know what price I am going to buy some other company for, you know. So that in the old days, some people were privileged to that, right? If company B is going to buy company A is selling for $6, but company B is getting ready, want it so bad they're going to pay $25, and you know that before it happens. That is sure money. You could mortgage the house and bet on that one, right? But so that's supposed to be illegal. So but when you look at the reality of it, before a deal like that is done, right? There are bankers on both sides, investment bankers, commercial bankers, and attorneys. And all of these people know what the price is going to be, but they're not supposed to tell anybody or act on it.
Not supposed to. Oops.
Not supposed to.
Any particular technical or more specifically cyber trends that you have been particularly impressed by?
I think that the trend right now is definitely the social media trend.
Okay.
the social media trend, because it's amazing to see that when Twitter started, nobody seemed to understand what this 140 characters are. But if you look on CNBC, Fox News, everybody's utilizing this real-time responses. You know what I mean? So I think that Twitter is going to be, as an IPO, initial public offering, is going to be more successful than what Facebook went through. Because Facebook got bashed. But Twitter is going to be a big one. It's going to be very big.
So a lot has to do with the public reaction.
Yeah. The public reaction, because you see, when you think about it, right? What's her name? Lady Gaga has some like 30 million people on
Twitter. Yeah.
On Twitter, you know, and even Jaden Smith, Will Smith's son,
Yes,
he's got some 20 million followers. Man. So when you got numbers like that, companies will pay you to just tweet something about their product.
true.
So it's an amazing, it's really an amazing medium. Really an amazing medium.
Given how our society is evolving technologically, what do you believe is the next big technical boom that will surprise many of us?
Electric cars.
Electric cars.
Yes. It's already on the wing. And as a matter of fact, the Chinese are now subsidizing that industry. But Elon Musk is way ahead with Tesla Motors. And he's already turning a profit. Elon Musk is the same guy that started PayPal. Yeah, he's definitely going to be the fourth serious electric car company. DSACCB said, no hat, Hola Gaffman, taking your advice on Twitter, thanks. Karen G said, got to understand what is social media and marketing. Sheldon Britton question, in the context of Guyana and its development strategies over the years, can some distinctions be made between commercial banking and that of development banking? Oh yeah, just definitely you have to make a distinction, because commercial banking is really a completely different activity than development banking. Development banking, I feel, you have to take a different kind of risk. Development banking is banking that you got to go in, you try to build infrastructure, roads and bridges and things of that nature, because that is the when you build infrastructure, you lay the groundwork for everything else, and that is why China has moved so quickly. You look at Brazil, bad infrastructure. India, bad infrastructure. And Guyana has the capability to have good infrastructure, but we're not there yet. So commercial banking, and there's definitely a difference.
If you had to advise them, if they called on you to for advice on some investment, the government of Guyana, what would you tell them to bet their money on?
Well, I think sincerely, because I sat with Bruce Roble of Site Global, that Site Global was backed by Blackstone Group up here. And that hydroelectricity is a sensible thing. Trying to get, the Brazilians would like to get to the Atlantic via Guyana. It's a shorter route. Take them less time.
Yeah.
So that building roads and hydroelectricity, because you see, you really can't do much big manufacturing unless you got cheap energy, So, and you have arable lands and you got fruits. You could be doing all kinds of things with that if the energy cost is low. So I think that they really should focus on how to get that done. Really.
Do you have a personal mantra that carries you through turbulent times, and what would that be?
Keep fighting. Left hook. Left hook. Seriously, man. I got a wicked left hook, man. Don't even have to throw it sometimes.
You know, do you have a specific set of trading guidelines you follow before every trade?
Before every trade,
Yeah.
some of my guidelines are instinctual,
Okay.
and some it's homework and looking at mega trends
Mm-hmm.
and timing. Timing is very
Timing.
important. Yeah, timing is the whole thing. Man.
This is an important question I wanted to ask you last time. What can you tell us about money and how we approach and handle money as a community that does not work in our favor?
Well, the thing is, we have a fear of taking risk, and risk is commensurate with return. And we also have we don't really. I mean, and let me package this properly. For retirement purposes, there used to be pension funds. When you work for a major corporation, you get pension, right? So over the years, that has changed to people having 401ks, right? And what a 401k is, it's really for your retirement, right? So you put 10 or 15% of your salary into this 401k, and maybe the company would match it, depends. In the old days, the company made the investment decisions on where that money went to. Then they changed that and let the individual take control and responsibility for investing their own money. And then from talking with a lot of people close to me, a lot of people in the community, I realized that very few people really understand what this 401k is and what to do. So when the market crashed in 2008, some people that were retired had money to retire. The money dropped in by 50%, some 75%, because they just had it there and didn't realize, well, you either got to go get out of the market, put it in cash, or into something safer. See, the stock market is a fantastic thing when things are fine. You know what I mean? It's a fantastic thing. But when you have an economic collapse, you got to run. So that is one of the things that we need to. And I used to do some work with it, you know. I probably should do a little more, you know, educating all people on things of that nature.
What have you learned about money, investing it, and that you believe many of us do not know?
I think that money has to be moved. You got to keep it moving. It cannot be stationary. You know, it's one thing to have a savings account and save some money, but after you started saving, you constantly have to pay attention to where there is growth where you could get growth for your money. See, we're scared of risk, but risk is commensurate with return. You know, so that's where that whole concept of investment banking and trading. For instance, Netflix this year has been the best performing stock.
Netflix,
Netflix.
the guy who took a big risk.
Yeah, Netflix, right? And he's crossing over now into being like a cable company. You know, from doing DVDs, just keep changing the business model. You got to be willing to change your business model, change your thinking, because you see that collapse we had in 2008, 2009, it shook a lot of people up. And the people that survived are the ones that were able to change their thinking. Because it's a paradigm shift once again, you know, innovation.
Well, Valence, I hate to do this, but you have to run. And time is important. We have a minute. I always ask my guests, what makes you laugh out loud?
What makes me laugh out loud?
Yes, tell us, Valence.
Man, anytime that the humor is low down, really dirty humor, makes me laugh.
Valence, you've given us so many pearls of wisdom tonight. Can you give us one to take us out?
Keep your chin up.
Keep your chin up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to thank you. right?
Yes.
I want to thank you for coming, and I feel tonight,
Right.
right, we had a good synergy here, especially with investment banking, and it seems as though our community needs to hear more about this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put it out. I'm not going to wait for the public demand.
Yeah.
The next show, we want to focus. We could focus some more on investment and all those kinds of stuff. And so again,
And please, tomorrow night is my friend coming tomorrow night.
okay,
Karen.
yes,
Yeah. Well, she's phenomenal because she understands real estate better than most people I know, and she's very involved in lots of little interesting things. So
I'm looking forward to having her
yeah,
tomorrow.
she's gonna do very well. Very well.
Thank you.
All right, sir.
All right. Good night.
Good night to you. Good night, all.
Suffer the little children to come unto me. Every day, more than 30,000 children around the world die of preventable diseases. More than 300,000 children are being used in war as child soldiers. Lord have mercy. A child should be loved. A child should be held. A child should be clean. A child shouldn't smell. A child shouldn't go to bed hungry at night. A child should be taught wrong from right. A child should learn to say thanks and please. A child shouldn't suffer from preventable disease. A child is a fruit that shouldn't be picked before it's time. To do that to a child should be classified a crime. Who speaks for the children?